Hello and welcome everyone to a new Heroes of Mana Magic video, and this is a Magic Guide. We're going to be going over every single school of magic, all the mechanisms, and everything that you need to know in order to master magic in Olden Era. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So the key component, the key thing that we're going to be always looking at when it comes to like reviewing spells is going to be the Magic Observatory. And within the Magic Observatory, you have your spell constellations, so basically your tier of spells. Therefore, schools of magic, and they are all represented by a cool little thing that is like made up on the stars, like the spider here. So we have daylight spells, nightshade spells, arcane spells, and primal spells. And however, the most important spells in the game are not from any school of magic. Instead, they are the high neutral magic. So in Heroes of Mana Magic 3, we used to have the control spells, a Dimension Door, Town Portal, Fly, be part of schools of magic, you know? And that was a big problem because those schools of magic became super important and inflated just because the control spells were there. They were basically like a must pick. So Olden Era follows a different system. So what you're going to be doing is you will be accumulating astrology points throughout the game. All the towns like normally automatically generate astrology points. You can see how much over here. You will be then generating more astrology points whenever you build out your main building line here. So if you build Grove Palace 2, you're going to be getting 750 gold, law points, and astrology daily. It doesn't matter which one of these that you pick, you will be getting this base bonus by default every single time. And then you basically pick another extra bonus that you would like. So if we pick astrology, we're going to be expecting a 1250 increase for a 750 total. I mean, my math's bad. Oh, this is like actually combined. So Grove Palace 1, 500 applies, and then this is going up to 50. So yeah, that's where the 500 went for my calculation. Actually, today I learned. That actually makes me reevaluate bank a little bit too. But that's beside the point. Always learning, always growing. So you can see your astrology income over here on the observatory button. It's 1750. With every single time that you reach a threshold of points needed, you're going to be gaining an insight. This insight can be spent in order to unlock and upgrade the high neutral spells. If you have them unlocked and you have the level requirement reached, then by visiting any mage guild, you will then be having access to the spell. So in terms of actual gameplay, most of the time you're taking Second Wind first and maxing it, and then you're working on Dimension Door. And sometimes you will step out and do Shadow Flight. Also on Jeebus Outcast, you're taking some TP as well, early on. And that's it. That's all you really need to know. Second Wind first, max it. DD second, max it. Then go Shadow Flight. These two don't really matter. And TP, I believe, is only necessary for Jeebus Outcast and no other template in the current One Hero pool. So yeah, now you know. Generate astrology, spend on Second Wind, spend on DD. You're going to be way faster around the map. Let's go. So next up is we're going to be reviewing all of these spells and all of these schools of magic one by one. Okay? So first off, let's go with the most trashy of the schools of magic, and that is going to be Arcane. So Arcane is like a very focus point based school of magic, which is kind of weird because they don't do a lot with that, but sure. So probably the best spell. Well, yeah, we have Early Start and Energize. And Guillotine and Optical Illusion. So honestly, now that I think about it, these spells are not that trash. It's just that they're way too specific in order to warrant being a good, consistent school of magic throughout the game. So Early Start has, like very many uses. Whenever you need to like outspeed something, whenever you need to like move last in a turn, move first in a turn, you Early Start. Decent little spell. Does not really scale too much with levels. Guillotine is a spell that you use when you're in desperate situations, when you have like very high tier army coming at you. This spell will usually be killing about like, in my experience, it's usually like one unit, okay? So like a death stare, but like the second one is gonna be killing 2, then 8, and so on. You can actually like scale this pretty well, and sometimes it can be a pretty good high damage cast. Energize is just your button to generate focus, and it's a good one. Yeah, generating focus is important, is good sometimes, so just having this as an option is a thing. Next up is Optical Illusion, which will reduce the amount of range damage that you take by up to 50% on all of your creatures. However, you need a very high investments in order for this to actually be that good. And also it's not really as good as Twilight, which will make the opponents not be able to shoot like just completely. So yeah, the spell has like some competition and needs levels in order to be good. A lot of the other ones are actually like decent without levels, which is actually a reason why you don't really want to go Arcane, because like most of the things that the Arcane does, it already does without you needing to go into the School of Magic in the first place. So yeah, to 2 Arcane is like, it gets even worse. You get Carapace, which is a very high mana spell that will just block 1 or maybe up to 2 hits if you upgrade it. Yeah, it's not very good. There's like very many instances of damage running around in Olden Era, and just being able to like shrug off 1 or best case scenario 2 is just like not really a good deal. Then we have Reinforcements, an amazing spell. You just get to like cast this, and then you get to select a dwelling around you in a big range, one that you have already flagged, and then you get to recruit creatures from there. It's a really good way to rally army, super convenient. But once again, you don't really need, you just don't really need this, you don't need levels on the spell in order for it to be good. It's just like good by default, even like level 1. Next up is Blink. Once again, usually you don't need levels on this, but you just get to teleport a creature somewhere. Only friendly creatures, unless you're that one weird hive dude. And then Energy Explosion. A damage spell that does not scale with your power, rather it scales with focus charges. It's pretty bad. Like, the numbers on this are just like not nearly good enough. It's like a tier 2 spell that they expect you to have like super early, then they expect you to like save up the focus and then like use this. I mean, it's just like not really happening. This is, yeah, I don't know. I feel like nobody like really took a hard look at this, but that's okay. It's okay for there to be some weak spells in the pool. Next up is Assemble. Assemble is useless in 1 hero format, so it's whatever. Shackles will just like remove Counter-Strike, which is also pretty useless. It also like dispels Repulse, which could be like sometimes like a little bit decent. However, usually you would like to just wean all of the buffs off of everyone rather than using Shackles. So yeah. Next up is Temporal Spheres. This one is actually pretty cool. It places traps, invisible traps, that when somebody goes over them, it will deal a massive amount of damage immediately. This can actually be like a very mana efficient damaging tool. It also just does a lot of damage. The AI behavior is like rather predictable, they will go straight at you. So if you just like place some traps along the way, it can actually be like good. And next up is Impending Fate, which will deal damage, flat damage, not scaling with power, once again, per unit tier. So at most this is doing like a tiny bit over 200 damage to all targets. To all of the opponent's stacks. It's just, for tier 3 spell, it's really, really bad. It doesn't actually do something. I've only had like some niche cases where it was the only thing that I could cast, so I casted it and it wasn't like that bad. But that's like the most of it. So tier 4 is when we actually get some decent arcane spell payoff. We have 2 amazing spells. So the first one is Rewind Life, just straight up resurrection, and no caveats that you need to like accomplish this or that in order to have like the units be permanent. Nope. Just like if you rest them, they're back and they're yours forever. An amazing spell, and scales pretty well. You get, the number goes a lot higher with levels. And then next up is we have Mirror Copy. So at peak performance, what this means is that the Mirror Copy, you're going to be like summoning a copy of a stack. And it's not like the clone of Heroes 3 where one hit and it dies. It will actually be persistent and around for like many turns. And at peak efficiency, it will be taking 50% more damage. And it will be dealing only 30% less damage. So you're summoning a weaker copy of your main stack, and that's like super powerful. It feels sometimes like so oppressive to play against because, you know, like the opponent can kind of like handle one stack by like hiding it around, finding where that stack is not. Well, you know what? I actually have 2 of them now, so handle that. It's an amazing spell and very often game winning. Tier 5 also has like some pretty good arcane stuff. There's gonna be Black Hole. Yeah, Black Hole is going to be very high AoE. Though the AoE is like so weird to target, I cannot even tell you how weird it is to target. Yeah, it's like super janky, but it's like so big that it doesn't even matter that the hexes in the Black Hole are kind of weird. It has like a pretty good base damage, and it scales quite a bit well with power for a spell that is like so huge AoE. Next up is Dorius' Tide. Dorius' Tide is an amazing spell, which is going to be slowing your opponent and speeding you up, both in speed and initiative. However, not a lot of it. And then at expert level, it will also dispel all negative movement restriction effects from your army as well. Oh, and also all the positive movement enhancing effects from the enemies. Actually, I wasn't really aware of that one. But yeah, you can turn the tide and make sure that your units are going to be faster than the opponent's, which is super important in Olden Era. Then this last spell, honestly, it's an interesting one. Selected target takes no damage from any source. Instead, at the start of each turn, it takes all the damage it would have in the previous round as pure damage. Yeah. At max level, it also reduces the damage that stack takes by 40%. So this is only good in a few cases, okay? So if you use Reality Distortion and you use Barricade, some stupid things happen, I think, okay? Nobody has ever done this in a real game, so this is only pure speculation, but if you Reality Distortion, and then you can tank the full hit with like a carapace, then maybe all of that damage will actually just like not count and be killed by that single carapace. However, then you have to like cast 2 arcane spells in a single turn, which is pretty hard. You need like an Ancient Idol, you need Thaumaturgy, and you also need to like not be casting anything else. Honestly, making a stack immortal for the price of like 2 single School of Magic high level casts is honestly like a big price to pay, even if that was the case. Even if that is how it worked, but I'm not even that sure. So yeah. These are the arcane spells. I would not recommend going arcane magic almost ever, because like the payoff compared to others is like, you see, like looking at all of this in low tier arcane stuff, I can only like name it like fringe utility. Like yeah, sometimes you need a little bit of initiative on someone. Sometimes I'll get to like just unload like 3 guillotines on something, but that's also pretty rare. Sometimes I need like some help against like getting range attack, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty weird. And these spells don't even like scale that well with levels because they already do what they do, even at a low level. So yeah, compared to all the other tier 1 spells, it's like pretty garbage. Tier 2 as well, tier 3 as well. Only tier 4 plus is when it gets good. So you want late game arcane casting, not early game arcane casting. Okay, so next up is let's look over Daylight Magic. So Daylight is focused on buffing up your army, and it does a pretty damn good job at doing that. It is amazing. So Blessing, at the base level, you're going to be getting 25% extra damage. At peak level, all of your army is going to be getting 35% more basic attack damage. Basic attack damage means that yes, range attacks, long reach attacks, and melee attacks, everything is gonna be getting buffed by 35%. Amazing, just like insane modifier. One of my favorite spells in the game that I always spam. You know, and then compare this to like the early start, which is like one unit gets some initiative, like pathetic. Short and Shadow. This is an interesting spell. At base, okay, listen, like level 1, nobody casts Short and Shadow. It's like the most trash spell. It will reduce the attack and defense of a creature by 2/2, which is not worth a cast. However, let's consider the expert, like level 4 version of the spell. It will affect everyone, and it will continuously decrease the stats. So, like, let's say you cast, like, level 4 Short and Shadow, 4 turns in, all of the opponents are losing 8 stats by that point, and it will keep accumulating for the entire duration. That is greedy. It's too greedy. The fights don't usually last that long in Olden Era. They're usually, like, figured out at a certain, like, earlier point. So, Short and Shadow just falls a little bit short. Next up is Haste. Haste, is a single target speed boost. You know, like, it's niche utility. It's just like early start, but for speed rather than initiative. And then Healing Water. It heals a unit. Sometimes when you have like a higher tier unit that has to like do a lot of work, you can Healing Water it and it will be, you know, able to do that work a little bit easier. Sometimes it can let you resurrect army a little bit easier. For example, if you're playing like Wormos, whenever they eat a corpse, they gain a healing that is able to revive units. But if they, you know, if they end up not having, I mean, if they have like too little HP, you can heal them and then eat a corpse in order to like get back on your Wormo. So like very nichely useful. In tier 1, it's all about the blessing for daylight. Let's go on to tier 2. So one of the most overlooked, I mean potentially overlooked, all of the good players already like recognize the power of the spell. However, for an inexperienced eye, Inner Light might fall through the cracks. Reduces the duration of all negative effects applied to the target friendly creature. And then, of course, at expert level, it will be affecting everyone. So this is like Expert Cure from Heroes of Might and Magic frame. Amazing. There's like so many debuffs running around. Things that people will throw at you, like Naira's Kiss, Vengeance, you know, Twilight is super toxic. In order to be able to handle all of these like super rough casts against you, Inner Light is a must. Even if you're not playing Daylight, many people just like make sure to have like the best amount of Inner Light that they possibly can. It is an essential spell to get yourself to not be debuffed into oblivion. Yeah, super important. Next up is Weakening Ray. Just removes a counter strike from everyone at the strongest level. To be honest, it's pretty trash. I don't know. I mean, in some niche cases, I can see it kind of being a thing, but honestly, I don't trust it. From a Bird's Eye. So this one is basically the view air of Heroes of Might and Magic Golden Era. This is how you're gonna be able to find your opponent's stance, opponent's hero's position. But you need this at level 3 to be able to see the heroes, which is like quite a requirement, but usually it's not like too hard. You build like a few mage level 2s and then pay some dust, or maybe have like some item that will boost your spell levels or so on. And the last one is Favorable Wind. This one is kind of a weird one. It increases damage by up to 50% at the highest level. So, you know, when you have like a 35% damage buff for all of your army, having like a single target buff for 50% at tier 2 doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense. The only times where I think that Favorable Wind is playable is when you are playing with angels. and also have other stacks involved. So you can favored wind like your marksman, and then your angels will be able to, like, using their special ability, just have that buff as well. So you're basically buffing multiple creatures instead of one, in which case this buff becomes pretty significant and pretty cool. So yeah. Next up is tier 3. So Daylight has like some of the best tier 3 stuff in the entire game. The first and most important is gonna be Arena's Touch. On the basic rank, it almost does absolutely nothing. 10% HP and 1 initiative for a pretty low duration for one creature, like absolute trash. But at max level, it is gonna be giving all of your army 20% HP and 2 initiative. That is very, very strong. Getting Elixir and also getting like movement priority all in a single cast, it's really, really good. Next up is Taunt. All enemies within 2 axes of the target creature can only target that creature. So yeah, this will make it so a specific creature is gonna be tanking. This can be like, it has like some fringe uses, but honestly, I don't believe in them much. I would say this spell is kind of trash and toss. Usually you're better off casting something else. Next up is Song of Power. Resets the cooldowns of the target friendly creature, and max level, it will target all of the creatures. Well, yeah, I don't really like seeing. I don't think that any abilities are really like that super important that you can't like really just wait out the cooldown. You have to like reset it now, use it now. Maybe it's good for demon farming though. Maybe you can demon farm multiple stacks a turn with this because it's limited to once per turn, but with this you could do it again. Or maybe for liches as well. I don't know, I can like kind of theorize like some use cases, but honestly, yeah, once again, usually the competition is fierce, especially for daylight magic, and usually there's gonna be like better ones out there. So yeah. Now this one is super interesting. We have Riposte. So basically it makes the creature counterattack before it gets attacked. So you like, you click something and you want to attack it, it will actually hit you first and then you will attack it. So that's a very, very cool spell. And max level, it will also give you 1 additional counterattack per turn. It will deal more damage with counterattack, so you're absolutely decimating your opponent before he even hits you. And also it affects all creatures. So all of your creatures are like riposting gods that cannot be hit because you will hit them first. It is an amazing spell and feels really, really good to play. Nice. Then on tier 4, Daylight does not let up either. Clear Fog is a pretty good spell. It just like lets you click somewhere on the map close to you, and it will just reveal that a little bit of the map. So that's cool. Oh, and that rank 4 has a limited casting range. That's pretty cool. I actually wasn't aware. Then one of my favorite spells in the entire game. This one feels so good to use. Radiant Armor. So at basic, once again, like usual, level 1 spells are pretty trash. It will be giving 1 unit 20% damage reduction. Pathetic. However, at maximum level, 40% all damage reduction for every single unit in your army. Now that is premium, insane. One of my favorite buttons to click is level 4 Radiant Armor. It is absolutely awesome. Always going for this whenever I play anything even remotely Daylight. Usually even when I'm not playing Daylight, I'm trying to find the levels to make Radiant Armor work. Next up is we have Vengeance. So Vengeance will be making it so whenever a unit gets attacked, it will be taking damage. It's basically like the inner flame of the dragon. However, at a high level, it will affect all basic attacks, so even the range units will be getting hit. And honestly, you can scale it to like a very insane level where like something has to like take 1,000 damage to attack you. However, it is always a single target spell. So you need to like be able to find it, you know? Find a good target that will be getting focused is what I mean. And next up is we have Heavenly Blades. This one makes it so you deal a flat amount of damage with your attacks. It's pretty trash. It's kind of like an early game cheese ability, because the moment that you like scale up, 75%, 75 damage is gonna be just I mean, yeah, it will just like not really be significant enough to do anything. It can pretty notably be used with like double attack creatures in order to like proc it twice. That's the only like use case that I've seen. Like some Ostingers in the early game with Heavenly Blades can, you know, deal some damage. But honestly, pretty trash ability. And on tier 5, so I said that, you know, like so far Daylight has been looking pretty consistent, right? It's like, you know, pretty buffy, pretty supporty, you know, light-based things, let's go, Pepper happy. And now what does tier 5 Daylight get? Oh, why yes, Implosion. I mean, it may not look like it, but this is Implosion. This is just like the biggest straight-up single target damage nuke in the game. At a high level, it will scale 60 damage per power, and you can get a lot of power in Olden Era, and also magic damage amplifier steel. So yeah, this spell deals ridiculous amount of damage and is the pinnacle of Daylight magic. There's also Arena's Touch. The target form of the creature cannot have less than 20% of their current units. Taking damage reduces the duration effect by 1 round, and it goes up to a minimum stack size, 50%. And you can get a lot of duration by just scaling... Actually... No, it's not affected by power, never mind. Pretty weird spell. I don't even fully understand what it does, and I played with it a lot during the campaign, actually. Yeah, it seems useless to me, I'm not gonna lie. So that is Daylight magic. Usually Temple plays Daylight. Honestly, anyone but Necro can play Daylight. It's really, really good. You know, just getting that bless up early is amazing. And late game, yeah, you just go one-shot people. Pretty cool. So, probably the most impactful, though, of these schools of magic is going to be Nightshade. And Nightshade has some really, really good stuff. The first one is going to be a Natural Calm. A Natural Calm will just straight up, at expert level, make everyone deal 30% less damage with basic attacks. That does include range attacks, by the way. So yeah, this is insane. This is like Bless, but the defensive version of it. And yeah, it's really oppressive. It will make you bleed so much less army. You can get it up online, even at level 4 from a very early stage, and it's just gonna be like alongside you. This is like the good old, the most trustworthy thing that you're, yeah, gonna be like clicking in almost every single one of your fights from the moment that you get it at a decent level. Amazing ability. I mean, spell, but yeah. Then next up is we have Enlarged Shadow, the counterpart to Shortened Shadow. So this is going to be scaling your army by 2 defense and 2 attack, at least when it's at least level 2. So once again, the spell is just like way too slow, it scales not enough, and yeah, for that reason, I would say that it's not really important. Maybe if for some reason the fights tend to go on to the slower side, then it could be good, but for now, it's whatever. Okay. Then next up is we have Despair. Despair is probably the best early game damage spell in the game, because it just deals a really high amount of damage per mana point and per cast. Because the moment that you reach level 2, which is really easy, you're going to be having at least like 2 duration. If you have like 4 power, it's going to be like 3 duration. And it's going to be quite a bit of damage to you. It's like a lightning bolt worth of damage per turn for quite a few turns. So, you know, why just lightning bolt once when you can be applying Lightning Bolt per turn. And if you specialize in Nightshade and go for level 4, then it will be AoE. It's like, yeah, you can just like designate like an entire area of stacks to just die. Slowly, but surely. It's a very important tool in the early game of Olden Era. And when utilized correctly, it can do some pretty ridiculous things. Very great spell. Even really good in PvP. Its main downside is the fact that it cannot be casted on magic creatures, and why is every single thing in Olden Era a magic creature, especially when you need to cast a spell on it, so be careful, it is not super reliable. It's really good when it's available, but there's so many magic creatures in the game, I can't. So, Nightshade on tier 2 is pretty sucky. They don't really do anything. Read Minds is visions. It will show you whether something will flee or fight. It's pretty good with diplomacy. I mean, essential, but not really... yeah, nothing like too interesting. Then we also have Umbral Grip. Umbral Grip is just damage spell that will deal pure damage. So the upside is the fact that you can target creatures that are immune to magic damage, such as the Inquisitors, or like the tier 7 from Schism, or Fairy Dragons, or whatever like that. No, actually not Fairy Dragons. So yeah, the downside is that it absolutely sucks. The numbers are just like so low that you don't usually want to cast this anyway. This is like a desperate cast of like everything's on cooldown, you throw down the Umbral Grip that you just happen to have. That is this spell's purpose. Web. So this is slow. And yeah, it reduces the speed of a target creature. It will never be AoE, even at level 4. So no more spread slow in the game, except if you're playing Marl, the web specialist. Yeah, it's pretty weak. It's like a full cast, you slow down 1 stack. Sometimes you kind of look for it and you need it. Yeah. It's like a niche tiny bit of utility that sometimes can be a little bit cute. Nothing more. And then we have the Shade Cloak, which will make a unit untargetable until their next action or the end of the round. And also, the first attack was going to be dealing damage at higher levels, up to 50%. And it sounds kind of good, but it's like really, really hard to use because you need like initiative priority, then you need to like use the Shade Cloak, then you need to not do anything on that like other stack. It's a little bit too much work to use at all, but sometimes can be, yeah. And once again, like just like a super niche thing. Your free Nightshade, yeah, it's all about Twilight. Twilight feels amazing to use. It prevents all of the opposing creatures from shooting. But you need like level 4 in order to prevent all these stacks from shooting. At basic rank, it will just be 1 target that will not be able to shoot. And also, the targets will deal 15% less melee damage. Because they can't shoot, naturally they will melee. So, and it also applies to not even ranged creatures. So this is like 15% less damage dealt by all opposition, on top of preventing the shooting. So that is amazing. This spell feels super oppressive whenever you like get it off in a good situation. It feels like it's just straight up game winning. Twilight is awesome. Next up is we have Sleep. So Sleep is Heroes Freeze, Blind, just on Olden Era form. It actually, when you can hit the sleeping target and it will not awake them, however, it will reduce the duration by 1, and the peak duration is only 3. So, yeah. Normally the duration is actually only 1 for this. So it's like a super giga weak version of Blind. And also, you can only use it once on a target. Even if you get the cooldown back, you cannot use it again on the same target because they get like a buff called Insomnia, and it just says immune to sleep. So yeah, not super interesting, super weak. Then we have Silence. Target enemy is prevented from using abilities or generating focus points. At max level, it will affect all creatures as well. So it could be pretty good against like some specific setups, but I've never really had a good opportunity to like use this. You know, like I've never felt like, oh my god, if I had silence here, that would be amazing. So yeah, I think it's just like a little bit too niche. Nobody like super relies on focus points and creature abilities quite yet in the way that we play. So this just tends to be kind of overlooked. Then we have Nair's Veil, which renews the Fog of War. Also, not really too interesting. Doesn't really do a whole lot. Then we have Tier 4. So Tier 4, Nightshade, has some pretty amazing spells. So the first is Berserk. Berserk is not really the same as it was in Heroes of Might and Magic Frame. It is not going to be affecting their upcoming turn in a specific way. It will immediately, the moment that you cast this, make the target hit the nearest creature. And it will also buff the damage of the attacker creature too at higher ranks. But it can no longer be used in order for the opponent to be skipping turns anymore. So that's like no longer a thing. It's just like a single time thing. You want something of the opposition to be hitting each other. You cast this once and you get it. And yeah, honestly, it doesn't really see that much use. It's like sometimes a little bit useful. That is basically it. But what's really useful is the best summon, in my opinion, in the game. And it is Summon Starchild. This summons an AoE ranged unit. And a lot of them. They are amazing. Starchild is one of my favorite... Yeah, Summon Starchild is one of my favorite spells in the game. Even if you don't have like levels for it, just like being able to like summon these like amazing units is just like such a big boon. When you level it up, you also get like a lot more of them as well. So yeah, they're awesome. I love this spell. It's also a little bit weird for this to be a Nightshade, but I guess, I mean, at least the color fits. And then we have Vulnerability. Target creature takes 30% more damage from all sources. At level 3, it's gonna be 50% more damage, and at level 4, it will also target adjacent enemies. So it's gonna be like, you know, a little bit of a fireball of vulnerability. I would say that this spell is like way too niche. I've never ever cast it in my life, and I think that I've seen somebody else cast it only once, and it wasn't good either. So yeah, it's just like not very interesting. Next up is we have the tier 5s. And tier 5s for Nightshade are amazing. Well, I mean, 2 of them are. The last one is like kind of a question mark. Let's go for the question mark first. We have Coup de Grace. Target enemy creature will die after taking any damage if its stack size is lower than or equal to 20% of its original number. Pretty weird, right? But at max level, it is going to be affects all targets, and now it insta-kills from 35%. So basically, you can almost insta-end the fight if everything else on the opposition side is going to be 35%, and you can just like give them a little love tap, because you do need to deal any damage. If a creature is like at 30% of its stack size and it has Coup de Grace on, if you don't ever hit it, it will actually never die. And the buff might expire, I mean the debuff might expire, and they might even get away with it. So basically, the way that the game is right now, this feels usually like too much setting up, too many ifs to conquer for this to be good. Unlike Nair's Kiss. So Nair's Kiss marks an enemy creature, and it deals tremendous damage every single time they make any action. And yeah, at higher ranks, it will also reduce their speed and initiative every single time they take an action deal. So this is just like an insta-kill ability, except that it doesn't instantly kill, but it basically like makes sure that the stack will die. So any action is counted as an action for Nair's Kiss, waiting. even ones outside of your control, counter-attacking. If you counter-attack, you die to Naira's Kiss. And the number of the amount of damage that this deals is like absolutely ludicrous. Yeah, so if you Naira's Kiss something, it's like just doomed to die. So you can just Naira's Kiss the biggest stack, and yeah, you can kiss it goodbye. This spell is really impressive, super strong. And next up is we have Shadow Army. So Shadow Army is gonna be summoning an extra percentage of army on top of your army as temporary units. So let's say you have 100 angels. Let's say you have about 30 power and a level 4 Shadow Army. Let's say you cast the Shadow Army on your 100 angels. Suddenly there's 150 angels. So actually what you've done is you summoned 50 angels. Pretty good. Of course it depends on how big your army is, whether this is good or not, but giving like so many extra units onto like one of your stacks is, yeah, it can be like very ridiculous. Especially if you're focusing on a singular stack. This is basically should be counted as like a summoning ability, but you're summoning creatures that you already own, and you're putting them atop of your currently existing stack as well. So, yeah, a little bit of a weird one, but trust me, it works. It's an amazing spell. You use it often. Yeah. So now we only have one School of Magic remaining, and that is Primal spells. So Primal spells are pretty simple. They're all of the basic damagey abilities, and also, I don't know, also this thing, Fig Hide, because why not? So Fig Hide is probably like the best Primal spell, and it's actually completely not in the identity of the entire School of Magic. At expert level, it will give you all of your units 30% damage reduction from melee attacks. So, unlike Unnatural Calm, it has the downside of not really protecting against range attacks. So it's basically like a worse version of a Natural Calm. But a Natural Calm is like so good that having like a worse version of it is still really nice. Then we have our most basic damage ability, basically the Magic Arrow of Oldenera, the Lightning Bolt. It deals not really like a lot of damage, but it's the good old reliable. We also have a Crown Sign. I don't even know what this does. You don't need to either. Okay, so the tier 2 spells. These are getting quite a bit better. So we have Fireball, which is gonna be an AoE Lightning Bolt, basically. So we're moving up in the world. And at level 4, it also has like pretty respectable base damage as well. If you're playing Valier, getting some Fireball levels is actually like pretty important, because Fireball only scales like 10 with power. However, has 200 base damage at max rank. Next up is the Ice Bolt. So the Ice Bolt doesn't really deal that much more damage than Lightning Bolt, but has the extra benefit of reducing the initiative of a creature by a few. It also has better base damage, I believe. So, yeah, just slightly better Ice Bolt. I mean, just slightly better Lightning Bolt. But, yeah, it costs quite a bit more mana. If you're feeling very splurgy, you can Ice Bolt instead of Lightning Bolt, I guess. And then we have a very, very important ability that, once again, if you're not a top-rated player, you might be overlooking and you would be missing out. Ween reduces the duration of all positive effects applied to the target by 2. At max rank, it's going to be reducing it for all creatures. So this is a way to dispel the opponent's buffs. So if the opponent's going Radiant Armor, Blessing, Riposte, you know, like he has like so many buffs that you can't even do anything to him anymore. Ween is the spell that you need in order to like get through that situation. It will reduce the duration, hopefully enough to the point that the buffs will actually just like drop off. A very important thing to do. And Ween is the only spell that does this of its kind. Yeah, so that's very, very important. And next up is we have Crystal Crown. It just places 2 blocks. And also at the higher level, it's going to be 3 obstacles. and they will take 2 damage to get destroyed. It's pretty nice. You can just like craft a little bit of terrain. It's like force field, but you actually get to like target a little bit more. However, they're destroyable. You can manipulate the battlefield in clever, cool ways. Surprisingly useful ability. Not very primally though. Next up is tier 3. So on tier 3, we have the Firewall. Firewall doesn't work the way that it did in Heroes 3, where it has like 3 hexes and a predetermined shape. Instead, you're going to be able to freely target hexes on the battlefield, and you can just drop fireballs. It's a pretty good mana efficient way to deal damage. So yeah, at level 3 you get to select 3 hexes, and I wouldn't say that it's like something that you should always go for, something to look out for. It's just that if you happen to get it, that you can make some use out of it. Honestly, that's really all there is to it. Nothing more, nothing less. Next up is Stone Fangs. So Stone Fangs can target multiple creatures, up to 4. And it will just deal damage to them. So like you can select like basically 4 lightning bolts. The thing is that the spell doesn't really deal damage until you get it to rank 4. At rank 4, it's an amazing spell because you basically get to use 4 lightning bolts. Well, not 4 lightning bolts, rather lightning bolt on 4 different targets with a single cast. That is amazing. But until level 4, it just deals a little bit too little damage for anyone to care. Earth's Rage. Not a very interesting spell. This is basically Earthquake. However, it also damages everyone inside the walls for a lot of damage, making Earthquake one of the best spells in in siege battles. However, siege battles are pretty rare because the tournament win con games are pretty rampant, and also people are meeting each other in the wild. Maybe when people start cowering in their towns, Earth's Rage will see quite a bit of play. However, for now, it's not very interesting, because, you know, the situation is just too niche. Next up is we have Cave-In, a very interesting spell. It deals a pretty respectable amount of damage to a single target, and also it will surround it with terrain in every adjacent accessible hex. So that means you'll need to like hit the terrain for it to disappear, and then your unit will be able to move out. Unless it's a flyer, it's gonna be like stuck for like a little while. So it's like a little bit of damage and a little bit of crowd control. A decent little mix. It's better than the other single target spells. It only suffers from a pretty high mana cost. You know, it's quite a bit more than a lightning bolt, but not exactly that much better in terms of damage. So yeah. And these are the tier 3s. Let's go on to tier 4. So in tier 4, we're getting some of the big damage spells. The first, let's go over the good old Chain Lightning. Pretty much exactly as it is in Heroes 3. Except that it doesn't have like infinite next target selection range. So, you know, in Heroes 3, as long as there's a target, it will bounce to it, no matter how far away it is. The ordinary Chain Lightning will select a random target within 3 hexes. So, you know, you can actually use this to blast in single target without like hitting your own army, which is actually like a big upside. I definitely like this change. It actually feels quite a bit more natural. It loses 50% of its damage every bounce, and it goes up to like what? So 5 bounces, I think? No, actually 4 bounces. Well, anyway, the damage scales off like pretty fast, unless you're Halland. Next up is Circle of Winter. So this deals massive damage to everyone adjacent to the target hex. So basically like Circle in Heroes of Might and Magic 3, except that it deals super legit high damage. Spell is really good. It will... yeah. It will deal just like a very huge chunk of damage, and it will also crowd control people as well. It will push the targets, you know, like from the middle outside. So it's like reallocation, it reduces initiative, it deals high damage. It's just like a very good aggressive spell that does a lot. Feels pretty good to use, in my opinion. Then next up is we have Anti-Magic. So any chosen target becomes immune to tier spells of tier 3 and lower. This effect cannot be dispelled if the target is a summoned creature or contains temporary units in a stack. Those are destroyed. So you can also target opponents with this. So what this means is that the opponent summons a stack of like Starch Children. And if you cast Anti-Magic on it, it will just disappear. So for this reason, the spell is really important. Even if you don't level it up, it's a very, very important anti-summoning, anti-shadow army, anti-everything tool. You can not only anti-magic yourself, you can even anti-magic the opponent and get like the good stuff off of him as well. So this, yeah, anti-magic is awesome. And then we have Primordial Chaos, which is like a global map spell. It will basically re-roll the guard. Let's say you're going to break on Vendetta or Juba's Outcast, and you see that, hey, my break to Desert is Archangels, and, you know, like, I'm gonna die before I even get a turn, like, what do you want me to do? You can actually cast Primordial Chaos on that break, and you're gonna be generating a new one. Maybe some good old Hydras for you to bully. So yeah, pretty interesting. Can be useful. I don't use it enough myself yet. Then on tier 5, we have Armageddon for Primal. Honestly, I've been pretty disappointed with this Armageddon. It doesn't deal enough damage. We need more damage. Like, what do you mean 20 power scaling for Armageddon? Because the number is so low, I don't usually feel like it's worthwhile to go like full Armageddon as a setup. I've only been able to use it like in some fringe scenarios. The effect is cool, the spell is cool, but it's weak. So sad. What a shame. Next up is the Summoned Primal Remnant. So yeah, this is like the curveball of Primal. Suddenly, this damagey, like, School of Magic is now having the beefiest summon available in the game. These Primal Remnants are very hard to handle. They deal a lot of damage, they're super tanky. If you don't have like a way to dispel them or some anti-summoning shenanigans, then you're gonna be in for a really rough time. These guys are also super excellent in dealing with neutral things as well. You know, like out in the world, non-PvP situations. They just perform very nicely. And then the last one is Hixmill's Rampage. Almost like the Frenzy of Olden Era. It will make the target attack twice. Any target is going to be attacking twice. So, you know, like your Phoenix will now, instead of hitting once, will hit twice. It's really, really good. But it will also take and deal more damage, up to 40%. Honestly, sometimes I think that the lower, tiers of the spell is actually kind of good, because you could get the double strike ability without necessarily taking more damage. So that would be nice. Yeah, because I don't spontaneously want to die whenever I'm going to be casting this, because if I'm casting this, then I'm probably going to be casting it on something worthwhile. And if it's something worthwhile, having it take 40% more damage is kind of... This is like more of a finisher, I guess, of some sort. Or, you know, like some sort of like a rushy playstyle, maybe. It's niche, it's interesting, it is what it is. So yeah, these are the schools of magic. As long as you don't go arcane early, you're never really like gonna be missing. So a very important thing to go over is how do you get spell levels? You know, because like the difference between like a level 1 blessing and a level 4 blessing is like, you know, like it's everything. That difference. So yeah, the first way that you're going to be able to get levels is by just having the School of Magic. So if you see, if we have Expert Arcane, it will say the hero can learn tier 5 spells. I will learn arcane spells without going to the observatory, so even if I don't go to like a mage guild, I don't go back to the town, I can actually still get the arcane spells that are available over here in the observatory. So that's like pretty good. And also you get +1 arcane levels. Okay. So my level 1 spell went to level 2. Then you can also pick up the sub-skill Arcane Teachings, which will give you another one Arcane spell level. We went up to level 3. And we even invested our sub-skill into that. So where do we get the rest of the levels? Well, within the observatory, what you can do is that any spell... by the way, let's just like double check. Our guillotine is level 4. Oh yeah, because of this. So yeah, now we have a level 3 guillotine. As I said, we have like a level 1 spell here. Then we have our arcane magic, and then we also have arcane teaching, so that will be level 3. So what you can do always is going to be, you can come into the observatory and you can upgrade a spell for dust, which will give it 1 level flat. So we can come in here, we can just upgrade the guillotine with dust. There's, by the way, no limitation. You can just like go through them as much dust as you want. I mean, as much dust as you have, you are gonna be able to spend it. Also, very notable is the fact that even if you are outside of the town, all of the upgrades to spells will actually apply as long as you got the spell from the observatory originally and not like a book. So yeah, so that upgrade now made my guillotine level 4 instead of the previous level 3. There's more ways to gain levels on spells. For example, one of my favorite items in the game, 7 Eyes, +1 levels to all spells while worn. And if you upgrade it, you can actually have it be +2 spells to all, +2 levels to all spells while worn. So your level 1 spells are becoming level 3 spells, your level 2 spells are becoming level 4 spells. That is insanely powerful. Like, just getting like a level 1 Radiant Armor, paying dust in order to get to level 2, and then equipping 7 Eyes, you suddenly have like 40% damage reduction. Really good item. There's also like a pretty easy to get usually item, Find Wand in the Osloth for +1 all spell levels as well. Another way to gain spell levels is to flag some specific map objectives. Let me see if I can find one on the map to showcase what I mean. There's usually some on Exodus over here that I ended up generating. Okay, well basically, there are these shrines out on the map. And these shrines, when flagged, they will be basically behaving like a mine and have your flag on it. And as long as your flag is on the shrine, you'll be getting the shrines corresponding School of Magic level to all of these spells of that School of Magic. So like the Endless Shrine of Bronze is going to be giving you like +1 level to all the prime spells that you will ever be casting. And there's usually quite a few of these shrines out on the map, except for this one, of course. Bruh. Yeah, so those are gonna be like important to flag. Yes, finally, Jesus. So you see, you have like this objective, Endless Scroll of Platinum, while controlled by a player, increases the level of all arcane spells in the observatory. So that's gonna be like just giving all of your arcane spells +1 level across the board. Okay, but now you might be thinking, hey, like, wouldn't I overstack levels? I already have like 1 level, then I have like 2 more here, then I dusted it up, then I have like an item, then I have like a shrine. You know, like I can already have like a level 7 spell, but it caps out to level 4. Well, yeah, basically that's still like really important to have for you, because you will be, the opponent will be interfering with you. So, you know, like for Arcane, there's like a sub-skill of like Pure Spot, you see? -1 level to all enemy arcane spells. There's also items that reduce enemy level spells and so on. You need to make sure that you have like your casting ready, and overcapping your spells is just going to be making sure of the fact that you can cast your level 4 spells whenever you need to. So that's why that's important. Another good thing about the Mage Guild is the fact that you can actually unlock spells using resources. So whenever you build the first mage guild of a tier, you're gonna be unlocking a few spells. I don't remember the exact number, but you know, like 5 or something? No, probably more. So you're gonna be having like some spells unlocked, some spells like still grayed out whenever you build a mage guild. However, if you need a spell, you can unlock it with resources. The cost depends on the tier of the spell that you want to unlock, but if you need something, you can actually guarantee it in the Ordinary Mage Guild by just paying up, which is a very good option, and I would say the pricing is fair. So yeah, for like a tier 4 spell, it would be 8 all resources. Also, if you're heavily incentivized to be building many mage guilds, not only one, as you can see this symbol over here, we still have not upgraded the spell, but we already have it at level 2. The reason why that is because my other town's mage guild also ended up rolling for Shortened Shadow. So now we have 2 mage guilds with Shortened Shadow, making the spell level 2 by default. And then if we upgrade it, we can now have a tier 3 spell just straight up available to be picked up from the observatory even without any external effects. Like a level 3 Bless gotten this way would already be a mass 25% extra damage, which is insane. And you don't even need to go like for any daylight in order to have that. So that's pretty good. So building out many mage guilds, big plus. So okay. I think we went over most of everything. Yeah. All of these spells, all of the ways to gain levels for spells, observatory, high neutral magic. Yeah. I hope I did a good job. I'm recording these videos like after like 10-hour streams. I'm pretty busy these days, but it's honestly like so much pleasure, and hope these are useful for you. I'm gonna be, you know, coming out with more strategy guides as well. I really want to show off like many strategies that you can use in your games, and I've recently been learning recruiting. It's like so much fun. If you want to see my journeys, then, you know, make sure to join me on twitch.tv/lexshav. If I'm not on low timer, then I'm super happy to respond to any like newbie questions or just like chill and chit chat around. I'll see you. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye!